machines return to hand counts. No more universal mail-in ballots. Of course, we have those who can't make it to the ballot for whatever reason, but we should be sending out that information so that they can request for the ballots. Mail-in ballots, there's a lot of fraud involved, a lot of corruption involved. We should go back to requiring voter ID to ensure eligible legal votes. Return to one-day voting, and let's clean up our voter registration rolls. Thank you for your time.
Holly Moore.
Good morning. We all want clean elections. On election night, June 8th, 2022, a number of us attended the canvassing, which is the counting of the votes, at the airport from 8 p.m. to 12:30 a.m. Just after midnight, we received a printout of the ballots received. There were just over 16,000 counted, 16,418 to be exact. Keep 16,000 in your minds. However, 14 candidates received over 17,000 votes. How can that be? 17,000 is more than 16,000. How could they have received more votes than the votes counted? This was just 4 hours after the polls closed. The cheating had begun. What is even stranger is that those 4 same candidates received exactly the same number of votes, 17,902. This is statistically impossible. What does that indicate? It means election fraud. And how does that work? Cheaters from the voting machine companies and higher up preload the fake votes into the computer to give their, quote, selected, not elected officials a bump right from the start. They hope it's never noticed and that the contenders never catch up. And indeed, it is hard to see that initial bump in numbers the days in which they go by, except by running a special report. And it's a good thing we caught it right away as it happened. And you may not know this, but all votes and when they arrive are recorded in what's called the cast vote record in the voting machine. The cast vote record can be printed and analyzed, and it shows when the votes came in, how many came in, and if there were any preloaded votes and any bumps. We need a cast vote record analyzed for this county. Hart voting machines even touts it as a benefit of their software on the very first page of their manual. We also need those machines because they hold the evidence of this crime. Election fraud is a crime, and we want it investigated. And who investigates voting crimes in this county? It's certainly not Hart voting systems. Did you know that those records and votes can be erased? Why is that even part of the program? Why is that even in the software? They can cover up their tracks just like hiding a dead body. It is the Sheriff Withrow, who must impound the machine so the data cannot be altered or removed at any level. And there's a deadline on this data. It is September 3rd, 2022, because that's 22 months after the 2020 elections, and the data only needs to be stored legally for 22 months. Hart will be touching those machines, and who knows what they'll add or erase in those machines now that this has been made public. They cannot be trusted. Time is of the essence. We need to call on the sheriff to immediately impound the voting machines before the crime is covered up, and we want data analysts to look at our numbers. Seth Keschel, Dr. Frank, and Jeff O'Donnell, they can do that. We want the guilty to be held responsible, and it's time for us to get to the bottom of this fraud. Thank you.
Alex Aferis.
Hello, everyone. On the second page, New York Times, titled, "This was published July 28th, 2007, titled, Scientists Test Hacks into Electronic Voting Machines in California and Elsewhere," at a time when the New York Times had some decent investigative reporting. Not anymore. Second page, what does it say here? A professor of computer science at the University of California in Davis led a team that tried to compromise the machines. Said his group was surprised by how easy it was not only to pick the physical locks in the machines, but also to break through the software defenses meant to block intruders. The professor said all the machines had problems, and now one of the biggest was the manufacturers have appeared to have added security measures after the basic systems have been designed. He says, by contrast, he said, the best way to create strong defenses is to build security in from the design in phase one. So right off the bat, you have a team of computer scientists. Of course, this professor leaded the team. There's plenty of them. And this happened in 2007, maybe in 2006. And this was a discussion that happened back in the day. And we need to ban the HART machines. It doesn't matter what voting machines. They're all the same. They're hackable and so forth. And we need to return to paper ballots, hand counted. And there's other problems. You know, I could go into the other stuff, but this is the main issue. And also, while we're talking about enforcement, yes, the sheriff does have the authority to do enforcement, to impound the machine and gather the evidence. Folks, we're not here just spouting off. There's evidence. There's a scientific paper. Even cybersecurity experts in other states have gotten a hold of a machine and they have the evidence. Folks, you cannot steer from the truth. We need to investigate this. We need to ban the HART machine and the other machines, whatever you guys are going to choose. It ain't going to work because you guys had Diebold before HART. It's just switching one machine to the other, thinking it's all okay. It's not okay. And yes, the sheriff should step up, and other sheriffs across other counties and other states are stepping up. They're talking about the same issue, and they're going and taking action. Our sheriff needs to do the same thing. We shouldn't be destroying this evidence in September. There should have been a paper trail. We want transparency, accountability, and oversight. That's all we want. Otherwise, we're going to turn into another banana republic. And mindful, I guess we are heading into that direction.
Frank Gallardo.
Good morning, Chairman Wynn, Supervisors. I come here today with a slightly different perspective regarding the issues with the Registrar's Office. First of all, being part of 209 Times, as you can imagine, we have received countless inquiries, sometimes complaints from elected officials, political candidates, members of the public. It's from winners, losers, people inside the county, outside the county, friends of mine that are speaking today. So just a wide variety of opinions regarding how to deal with the registrars. I have concerns about election integrity. I think we all do. I think we should. But the point that I want to make today is that from 209 Times' perspective, I do not have the answers to what's going on. I do see red flags being raised. And when I see those red flags, one of the first things that I do is I call up the registrar's office, because that's what a investigative reporter does. And I can tell you this. Every single time that I have called the registrar's office since Olivia has been in the interim position, within 24 hours I get a call back. Now, that has not always been the case, to be perfectly blunt. We have had issues with the registrar's office in the past where I could not get any kind of a statement at all. And that was really difficult. That is not the case now. So as far as Olivia is concerned, I've got to give her 2 thumbs up because of the fact that she's transparent with me, that she's willing to take hard questions. She doesn't always have she doesn't always have an answer, but a lot of times she does. She doesn't have an answer. She gets back to me. And I think that at this point, as we're talking about the potential of maybe switching machines, a lot of the issues I think that are being brought up right now probably have to be dealt at a state level. And there's a lot of things, I like a lot of the things that are being mentioned, I think are good ideas to implement, but a lot of those have to be implemented at the state level. I guess what I'm here to say is I am in support of all the questions I have about the registrar's office. I do just want to make clear that on a personal level and also on behalf of 209 Times, we support Olivia Hale to be our registrar so that while we're navigating these difficult next few months, we have at least some stability. So thank you so much.
A quick comment, Mr. Galdo. Later in the meeting, we are going to appoint Ms. Hale as the director or the registrar of voters. So that is going to happen. The second part in regards to it, I just want to thank you for doing the tour, which we offered to many individuals in regards to the voters' concerns about, the process itself. So it's always good when those who are investigative reporters, whatever, at least have an opportunity to actually look at the way that the process works. So,
thank you, sir. Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to take the tour, and I'm sure I'll be taking more. And we do have more questions, and this is not over with. But again, thank you all, and I'm glad to see that Olivia is going to move forward. Thank you.
Patricia Barrett.
Good morning. Supervisor Rickman, you opened the door even though I didn't come here for public comment. You said, citizen watching out for citizen. Oh, that made me flare up. I'm here to talk about our homeless. We have to let our homeless stop slipping through the cracks. Yesterday, I attended a meeting where outreach workers go to agency, a few in the camps. The camps scattered throughout our county is the problem. We still have approximately 2,500 homeless. We need to get them into a couple of large camps so that we can address them. So when the sheriff's department, the police department move them to clean, not out of violence or anything, when we return to give them services, they're gone. We've lost them. We've missed them. We don't know where they went. Okay, so now that person has just been put to the back of the door again. It's like chasing our tails. We need to get them to be housing ready, and with mental health challenges, this can take months. As a lived experience of homelessness of 4 years, it took me 6 months to adapt to being in a building with a roof and a floor and walls and a door. I encourage you to build 2 or 3 camps before our cold winter returns sooner than we expected. And I think you might remember I was here last year saying that, and I was here the year before saying that. Our winters come, our summers are hot, but our winters are cold. I live in a house where I can feel on cold days because I have to watch my budget. Air blowing from cold in a house, mind you. They're intense. These folks are intense. We need to get them in spots. We need to get them in areas to where, Supervisor Miguel, I think I sent Chris my presentation. We need camps to where we work with folks. We need them in spots so when I come back and say, I got your ID, I got you this, I got you that, what else do you need me to do for you? I can work with you with mental health. These people are scattered all over and our outreach workers are not able to address them. We can have outreach money, we can have outreach workers. We need hundreds because at 2,500, at 100, that's 25 per person. Okay, we don't have 100 caseworkers. We need more. We need camps. We need to help them get reestablished back into housing. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, clerk of the board.
Thank you, Chairman. The following comment was submitted twice by Sharon Hernandez and once without a name, and writes, members of the board, today Motecuzuma Patrick Sanchez and Patricia Alvarez are being honored for assisting a veteran. As much as I would like to believe that this is more than just a photo op, I do not. I want you to consider the damage these 2 individuals have done for the community. Motecuzuma Sanchez the self-proclaimed CEO of 209 Times, and Patricia Alvarez, a writer for 209 Times, are responsible for the dissemination of fake news and responsible for writing many articles that have targeted young adults and even minors to be bullied online and in person for defending their rights to hold their school boards accountable. While they both conspire to, quote, bring down, end quote, 17-year-olds, I find it appalling that they are being honored by members of the board. Please kindly reconsider the type of community leaders that we actually need. This type of behavior is unacceptable, and it is exactly what you are promoting today. The next comment was submitted by Jennifer Gass, who writes, our 12th public protest will be Wednesday, August 10th, 9:30 a.m. to 11 a.m. in front of CCBVI 2453 Grand Canal Boulevard, Suite 5, Stockton. Please join us out there to hear our concerns and help amplify our voices for change. What needs to change at Community Center for the Blind and Visually Impaired? We want transparency, accountability, professionalism, compassion, and appropriate responsiveness from our Board of Directors and Executive Director at CCBVI. We want assistance in finding, acquiring, and vetting a new quality, qualified, and professional executive director with much stakeholder and a far larger and superior facility have been best utilized to serve the blind, as the Flora Street building sat unused for nearly 4 years, getting broken into by the homeless before it was secretly sold in January 2020 and only disclosed June 8, 2021, while this rented building has cost thousands a month. Please contact Stockton Blind Alliance at 209-200-8589 or on Facebook and Twitter. The next comment was submitted by Molly Watkins, who writes, the board and the sheriff has a copy of a citizen's analysis of the primary election results. There is a pattern of votes that can only result from a mathematical formula contained in the software as an algorithm. You must authorize a third party to investigate this issue and determine how these patterns were created. A little fraud or a lot of fraud is illegal and leaves us with a selection and not an election. Uphold your oath and investigate. And Chairman Nguyen, that concludes our public comments.
Thank you. Moving on in the agenda, the minutes of June 22nd. June 23rd and July 26th. Any comments, revisions, modifications to the minutes of those meetings?
Move to approve the minutes.
Second.
Okay. Been moved and seconded. Please vote. And it's adopted 5-0. Moved on to appointments to boards and commissions. Vice Chair Rickman.
Thank you, Chair. This is item 3.1. Approve the appointment of position to various board and commissions and nomination to the Juvenile Justice Delinquency Prevention Commission. I'll make that as a form of a motion. Advisory Water Commission, City of Escalon, 1 position, or City of Escalon alternate 1 position. And recommend for appointment Robert Swift. Agricultural Advisory Board, category Ag Financing Institution Representative, 1 position, position number 1107. And recommend for appointment Josh Cheney. Behavioral Health Board, category Consumer Representative, 1 position, position number 6702.2. I recommend for appointment Philip Cisneros. Economic Development Association, 3rd Supervisorial District Representative, 1 position, position number 2603. Recommend for appointment Roxanne L. Jewel Richards. Juvenile Justice Delinquency Prevention Commission, 4th Supervisorial District Rep, position number 3904. Recommend for nomination Robert McGee. Lodi Community Center Advisory Board, category Low Income Representative, position number 4502.1. And recommend for appointment, I guess we're going to re-advertise that one. And San Joaquin County Citizens Election Review Advisory Committee. This is a 1st Supervisorial District Representative. That's 1 position, position number 7401. Recommended for appointment Jessica Wagner. 2nd Supervisor District Representative, 1 position, position number 7402. Recommended for appointment. I guess we're going to re-advertise that one. 2nd Supervisor District Alternate, position number 7402A. We are going to re-advertise. The clerk of the board. 3rd Supervisory District Representative, one position, position number 7403, recommended for appointment Carol Hadley. Third Supervisory District Alternate, position number 7403A, recommended for appointment Melanie Knott. Fourth Supervisory District Representative, position number 7404, and recommended for appointment Tim Loney. And fourth Supervisory District Alternate, position number 7404A, recommended for appointment Antonio Amador. And fifth Supervisory District Representative, position number 7405, recommended for appointment Stephen Wampler. And just to make one correction in the beginning, Advisory Water Commission, that was position number 1007.1A. And I'll make that as a form of a motion, Chair.
Second.
Okay, just a brief comment before we vote. I want to thank, I got 11 applications for the election advisory, which was excellent, and I called every one of them, talked to them, and I was very pleased, and believe me, it was a very hard decision to narrow it down to 2. But I want to thank those who applied, and certainly those in general in the public for their interest in regards to this committee, which I think will come up with a recommendation as how we can improve our electoral system. So, all right, please vote. We have a motion and a second. And that's adopted 5-0. Moving on to consent. Any supervisors wishing to pull any items from the consent calendar? Ms. Patty?
Thank you, Chairman. I'm going to pull item number 22 if our District Attorney, Tori Verber, is here.
I believe she is. Any others? Supervisor Miller? Vice Chair Rigman? Supervisor De La Puga?
None, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Pull item number 10. All right. So item number 10, the approval of the Community Development Director, Jennifer Jolly. Mr. Wilverding.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Supervisors. Government Code 54953C3 requires an oral report on salary compensation before the board can take final action. And today's action recommends the Director of Community Development Department appointing annual salary to be approximately $164,539. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Any other comments, questions? Seeing none, I need a motion and a second.
Supervisor, you've got number 22.
Oh, I'm sorry. Supervisor Patty.
Thank you, Chairman. I wanted to bring down our District Attorney, Ms. Verber. This is go back to the beginning here. This is a program I believe was originated in our District Attorney's office by Ms. Verber and her team, continually serving our community. And I just wanted to, it's up for renewal. See if we've got trying to find the letter here. I'm not getting a go-to currents on our system here, but District Attorney Verber. I did want to bring you down. I'm glad you're able to make it. I know you've had a busy morning, but perhaps you could share some of the metrics in and of this program as it's up for renewal, but some of the things that you're able to launch and accomplish.
Good morning. Thank you. Through the chair, members of the Board of Supervisors, Madam Clerk, County Council, and CAO, thank you for this opportunity to be here today. Sitting next to me is my team member, Gabrielle Harkey, who heads our victim services. And she has done an incredible job and made us competitive to receive these large allocations of resources. The money that we'll receive through this will establish about 93% of the budget for the salaries of 14 critical members in our team, victim witness advocates, and the support that goes through them. And to give you an idea of what that money means to this county and how we're able to help, in 2021, they were able to reach 16,662 people and provide victim services for them. Some are new, some are ongoing from cases from before. But the harm experienced by victims served is not just the victim, and that is our primary focus, but it's also all those people around them, their family, their friends, their neighborhood, and their community. So to give you an idea, last year we had a 30% drop in homicides to 62. From that 62, we provided services to 2,400 people who were related because of the homicide. That goes to show you how far out these homicides and how much impact they have upon our community. We have to then expand our reach to include all of those family members, friends, and neighborhoods and community members to ensure their health and wellness as well. We did about 706 related to vehicular manslaughter, 667 people as it related to elder abuse, 527 to robbery, domestic violence, 6,000, over 6,000 people, and sexual assault, stalking, over 3,000 people, and of course, child abuse, 2,500. So those are the kind of numbers and where we're working with families because the trauma is inflicted upon them, no fault of their own, and not only are our victims incredibly and adversely impacted, but those closest to them and surrounding them are. These positions allow us that opportunity to spread. We started in this, we think we had 6, and we're over 24 now, victim advocate members that can help us in this community and really do the work we need. So it's incredible research that they've done. And just to kind of break it down to you, about 51% are females, 33% are male, and 16% reported was not reported or other. By race, it was about 38% Hispanic, 5% Asian, 3% other, 29% Caucasian, and about 25% African American that we work with every year in order to provide services. And that includes general information about the case, whether it's been charged or not, the proceedings and how that'll occur, notification on case matters, referral to services, and we greatly appreciate our community-based organizations and their partnership. We fully inform tens of thousands of their victim rights and what they are entitled to under the state law and the Constitution. We provide also civil legal assistance for those who are looking for civil restraining orders or trying to get out of complex relationships where harm is occurring, and crisis intervention. Our team works till midnight. We're one of the few victim witness advocates in the state of California that does that. Most end are 8 to 5, and if you're harmed anytime after 5, you have to wait till the next day. Our team's there 6 out of the 7 days till midnight. So very proud of them and very grateful to them and their team for all the hard work that they do.
Well, thank you. And it's an example of your leadership,
Thank you.
Taking that extra step beyond just being the prosecutor and the strong arm of the law, but also looking at the ramifications, those that are most vulnerable, and helping some of the victims pick up the pieces and their family members toward that healing process. So I wanted to just bring you on down and thank you for pulling that together on a quick, great job, lots of valuable information that I wanted shared. I think that your job has been exemplary, and I appreciate the effort that you've done to serve the community as well as you have, plus your staff and their dedication, their work, their vision. And I'm certain it's not all your idea. No. It's not all coming just from you. I know you've got an amazing staff that step up and they take the ball and they run with it and they make a bigger game out of it. Yes. So a bigger play, or certainly not a game, but just to expand the services and the help and the outreach. So we really appreciate it.
Thank you. I've been blessed to work with incredible leadership from Gab to all of her team members who sacrifice so much, and each one of them takes on the trauma of our victims as they come through and then has to help them and process them through on their journey going forward into a better and healthier place. It's 16,000, over almost 17,000 people that were given an opportunity last year to find healing and wellness, and that's because of her team and her leadership and dedication. So the credit is hers and her team. So thank you.
Well, and you have to look at it. I mean, 16,000 divided by 365, you're looking at dozens of calls. Could be throughout the day, hour. There's needs and urgency. And so I'm glad to know we have a response team and the support network that we do. So thank you. Appreciate coming forward and sharing that information. Thank you, Chairman. That's all.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Now, any further comments? If not, I need a motion and a second for the consent calendar.
So moved. Second.
Please vote. And it's adopted 5-0. Moving on to the next item, which is the appeal of Ni Fong Lee, Sheriff's Office, summary suspension of a permit to operate a massage establishment.
Musical chairs here a little bit.
Okay.
Ms. Hagee will be here in a moment.
All right. We can wait till she arrives.
Yes, please.
If, Mr. Miles, I assume you're the appellants?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Could you move over to this side, and Mr. Miles, could you move over to that side?
Certainly.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Probably start without. Well, waiting the arrival of Ms. Hagee, why don't you go ahead, Mr. Miles, and start? I'm sure she can catch up.
Thank you. The county has a comprehensive ordinance regulating massage establishments in the county code, section 71253. The ordinance requires that in order to operate a massage establishment, you must have a permit and be in full compliance with the ordinance at all times. In May of this year, the Sheriff's Office began an investigation of the Blue Bay Massage establishment, and Lieutenant Theodore is here and can speak to the facts of that investigation.
Good morning, Board. My name is Andrew Theodore. I'm a lieutenant with the San Joaquin County Sheriff's Office. I currently oversee our AgNet unit, which also entails our vice crimes unit. Our vice crimes unit is tasked with investigating prostitution-related activity, permitting within the county for massage parlors and other establishments, as well as enforcement of ABC law, tobacco laws, and street-level prostitution and illegal gambling. Going back to early 2021, the San Joaquin County Sheriff's Office received numerous complaints regarding various massage parlors within the county engaging in illegal activity. We conducted several investigations related to these establishments, and then subsequently conducted a proactive investigation at the Bay Massage Parlor located at 3418 North Delaware Avenue in the West Stockton area. The operation consisted of surveillance initially in April of 2022. The surveillance included in-person, on-scene surveillance with undercover deputies, as well as monitoring of a media platform on the internet known as Rub Maps, which provides reviews, we'll say, of these massage parlor establishments, and many reviews related to the Blue Bay Massage Parlor indicated that sexual activity was occurring at the location in exchange for money. Upon doing surveillance, various pretext traffic stops were done of patrons seen leaving the location, and on no less than 2 occasions, the subjects contacted confirmed that they had engaged in sexual activity within the location in exchange for money. A subsequent undercover operation was done inside the establishment, where 2 different undercover San Joaquin County Sheriff's Office deputies were sent into the location. During those 2 operations conducted between May 4th and June 3rd of 2022, those undercover officers were solicited for sexual activity in exchange for money. Going back to the pre-tech stop. One of the stops was conducted in conjunction with the undercover operation that occurred, and the only person in the location at the time that the patron confirmed sexual activity occurred and our undercover officer confirmed that sexual activity was offered. I'm not going to say her name in this unless you'd like me to identify her here.
I don't think that's necessary.
Shortly after these investigations were conducted, a search warrant was executed at the location, and the same female subject who was contacted by our undercover deputies and solicited our undercover deputies for sexual acts was contacted with inside the location and was subsequently taken into custody. Following the conclusion of the investigation, the owner was served notice for revocation of her business license for a multitude of violations related to the activity that was confirmed to be occurring in the location.
Okay.
The violations that are at issue and that support the suspension of the business license are one of the requirements under the ordinance is that the owner keep employment records on all individuals who are providing massage services at the establishment. Secondly, that all individuals who provide massages at the establishment must be licensed, must have current licenses. And then lastly, there was a condom wrapper that was found in one of the massage rooms. In this case, the affidavit that's been submitted by the owner establishes that her mother was working at the massage establishment, that she did not have employment, she was not working as an employee, she did not have employment records on her, and she was also providing massage services and did not have a current massage license.
Okay, when you say she was providing, that was determined by how?
I believe that states that in the affidavit from the owner.
Okay, so for the Sheriff's Department, there was some investigation in regards to her activities participating in massages on the premises, is that correct? The mother who had the expired permit?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from any board members? Okay, seeing none. All right, I'll open the public hearing. If you could state your name and your position, please, before you speak.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tien Duong. I'm here to represent the owner of Blue Bay Day Spa. Her name is Nhi Phong Lei. So I would like to ask the board if you would like to hear from me or from her. Should I state my argument?
Sure. I mean, it's your presentation, so you can do whatever you would like to do.
Certainly. So the purpose of the San Joaquin County Ordinance goal is to protect the public from harm. And Chapter 7 spells out that goal and also the mean to protect the public from harm. And that is to regulate the massage industry in San Joaquin County. So one of those measures is to require licensing of the worker and also of the establishment and set out rules in order to operate such an establishment. And Ms. Lei opened this, bought this small salon from someone else that wanted to retire in, I believe, last year, in the summer of last year. And there was an employee already working there for the former owner. So with the recommendation of the former owner, she kept that person on. And her situation is she's mainly taking care of her little sister who's about 20 years younger at home. So she thought this small place would work out and help her get some income so she can have Social Security in her later age. And she was aware of the rules that would help employees comply with the county rules regarding the massage work. So she had her employees sign a rules and regulation before the person started working, and I think I gave a set of those rules to the members of the board. So in there, it was also translated in Vietnamese to make sure the worker would understand. So since you already have the rules, I'm not going to read it out, but basically that the employees are not allowed to have any sexual contact with the customers, have to wear proper clothing from the neck down, not to have personal phone in there, not to have solicit customers or do any unlawful activities inside the establishment. And she has a camera to watch the hallway and I think outside. She also posed a price list inside the store, inside the salon. So she would come out a couple times a month just to keep an eye, but I think there was an issue of trust. She had trust in the employee because seemingly it's a young female was raising a child, so she thought with the recommendation of the prior owner that it would be an appropriate person to work there. She did have a copy of that employee's Social Security license and driver license, but it was on her phone. It wasn't printed out. They were not printed out and kept in a file at the place. And her mother helped her out by going out there and clean up the place, but the employee is required to clean up the place also after her work day. The mother has a license that says California license given in Sacramento. So that was her understanding that it was lawful for the mother to work and sometime help with the extra customer there. The way she operated was that they did not take make appointments with customers. It would be on a walk-in basis. Or if someone called and say, is there someone available in an hour or at 2 o'clock? Then they would say yes. So this is a very small salon. This woman is 30 years old. She's been here for almost 20 years. She finished high school here. She doesn't have a lot of work experience. After high school, she got a license in hair. Then I think included with that, you would learn a little bit of how to do a massage and facials and things like that. So she got a license just to have one and be more skillful in that industry. So that's why the thought of opening a small salon seemed a good idea for her. I guess her appeal to the board is that if she made some mistakes, it was not intentional, and that the board would give her a chance to rectify them. She understands now that she has to consult with the code, the ordinances of the San Joaquin County, and have a proper file, a paper file at the salon for any employee, and she would be screening them perhaps through an employment agency and not just take it upon herself to do it. And she would ask the board to give her a chance and reinstate her license so she can continue operating the salon, maybe at this location or another, and that she's a law-abiding citizen, and she's really not in her intention to not obey the law in this county or in this country. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions from the board? So as I understand your presentation, the employee had no paper file on the premises, is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
Okay. And the owner was kind of an absent owner in regards to caring for her daughter, is that correct? Or was it her mother?
She's there sometimes, couple times in a month.
Okay. Did she have any discussion with the previous owner as to the requirements, legal requirements in regards to operating this type of business?
I'm sorry, did she?
Did the current owner have any conversations with the previous owner as to the legal requirements of operating this type of business?
Yes, she did. She asked that person a lot regarding especially the paperwork that she needed, because she was very new at this. So the person recommended the employee, and also I think recommended a ad on Google and how to go about putting that ad up, and probably told her that the license granted in Sacramento, that's a California license, would work in San Joaquin County as well.
Okay, so that was information from the previous owner, correct?
Yes.
Okay, but she did mention paperwork was required during those discussions?
What was
the previous owner told the new owner that paperwork was required as part of the business?
No, she just relied on her to do the transfer paperwork. But she thought it was sufficient to have picture on the phone.
Okay. So did the appellant have any conversations with the sheriff's department or any governmental agency in regards to what that particular profession or business is required to comply with in regards to meeting legal standards?
No, she did not.
Okay. Right. Supervisor Miller.
Thank you. I want to make sure I have this clear. Is this the owner standing next to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Lay, and who is the gentleman with you?
The interpreter.
Okay.
Vietnamese interpreter. I'm sorry, I did not introduce them.
Okay, that's fine. So my question is, it's the employee who is working at the spa who is raising a child at home?
Yes.
And it's the employee's mother?
No, it's the owner. She's at home helping with her little sister who's younger, and it's her mother, the owner's mother, that sometimes comes out and helps. And that had the issue with the license that is not issued in San Joaquin County, but in Sacramento.
Okay. I guess my next question goes to the deputy. You said complaints were received about this location.
Complaints were received in general regarding a multitude of different massage parlor establishments within the county. So the Vice Unit proactively went regarding those complaints and investigated not only the ones that we had been contacted about specifically, but all located within county jurisdiction over the course of the last year.
So how much time elapsed? I guess what I'm trying to get at is from the time you started getting complaints and everything to the time that you completed the investigation, how much time?
The Vice Unit was created within the last year. and we started receiving complaints relatively soon after. So I would say within the last 8 months, we've conducted operations at approximately 6 different locations within the county, to include the Blue Bay Day Spa. So it was within relatively short order from the time we received these complaints, initiated these investigations, and then proceeded proactively with these investigations.
And then how many times did you have deputies actively involved investigating this location, both contacting customers after the fact and then also undercover?
So we had one undercover operation. During that undercover operation, the person that we're referring to was inside the location, was identified as the person that was working within. Just prior to the initiation of that operation, we conducted a surveillance operation, and during which one traffic stop was conducted and a patron confirmed that prostitution activity was occurring within. Then approximately 2 weeks later, we conducted a secondary surveillance operation in which another traffic stop was initiated of a patron leaving, confirming prostitution activity was occurring within, and we sent another undercover deputy within the location who made contact with another employee separate from the one that was just being referred to, who also engaged the undercover deputy with propositions for prostitution activity. So a total of 2 overall operations consisting of 2 surveillance operations and 2 undercover operations at the location within an approximate month-and-a-half time frame.
Okay, thank you. And so we're talking about 2 different employees, not just the employee that you mentioned that she trusted. There were 2 different employees that were both engaged in illegal activities.
That is correct.
Okay. And you're saying that that the owner only stopped into the business once or twice a month?
Yeah, a couple times a month.
But how often was her mother there?
I think probably once a week. Two times a week.
And was her mother aware of these rules?
Yes, she also signed one.
Okay.
I did not copy it to the board. And her mother was not the employee there. She just there to help her out. That's the idea of the owner.
Well, if she was providing massage services when needed, she definitely was working there. And even if she was just doing cleanup around the place, she was working there.
Right.
So, okay, I think that answers my questions.
Okay. Just a follow-up on that. As far as the visits by the mother or the owner, I mean, to visit an establishment is one thing, but how long were they there? I mean, were they there like for 30 minutes, an hour, all day? On these visits, twice a week, for example, the mother came in?
A few hours, because she has her own work elsewhere.
Okay, so she wasn't there all day to see what was going on a daily basis, twice a week, correct?
Correct, sir.
Okay, all right, I understand. Any other questions from the board? Sheriff?
I think just to reiterate and clarify one of the statements that was made is the owner of the business does have an active permit to operate that establishment as a massage parlor and had to go through the same process that all of her employees would have been required to go through as well. So she either knew or reasonably should have known what the San Joaquin County ordinance required of her and her employees for the purposes of acquiring a license from the County of San Joaquin in order to run the establishment and in order to have employees within the location working underneath her.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Patty.
Thank you, Chairman. Our system's working, I see. So through the chair to County Council, in my Ms. Hagee, this is the first time something like this has come up to us where there's been some action by the county for a business that's not operating within compliance. So what would be the normal protocol? Shut them down, give warnings, give a period of time to be in compliance? If you know, we've got business owners that are operating a business, you know, we want to support that, but of course we want to support legal activity, not illicit activity. So could you give us maybe a little history of what may or may not be the options and the normal protocol as it relates to the county?
Your board has discretion at this point.
To the microphone, please. Can't hear you.
Your board has discretion at this point to reverse or affirm, either wholly or in part, the revocation of the license, and also impose conditions if you would like to, or continue this matter to another time.
What's the normal protocol that the county has taken? What would be, on average, we give a business an opportunity to be in compliance, or on average, when somebody's not in compliance, we shut them down and they're no longer in business? Do we have metrics? I know this isn't typical. I'm just wondering, what is our normal process in the county when a business, for any reason, doesn't have the proper license?
I believe this is the first of this kind of appeal that the board has had the opportunity to weigh and measure. My recommendation would be that you use your best judgment in circumstances, evaluate what would be a fair opportunity at this time.
Okay, and those options, would you please define the options that would be recommended to the board?
And uphold.
And again, I think you need to bring the microphone a little closer. Like, I keep my microphone a couple inches away. If that microphone drags closer to you, we could hear you better.
You can uphold the revocation of the license in its entirety, or you can overturn the revocation also in its entirety, or in parts, or for a specific amount of time, or you can impose conditions, say certain employees cannot work there anymore for X period of time, or in its entirety, or as other conditions.
Okay, thank you. Through the chair, I see our Sheriff Withrow.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that, Supervisor Patty, through the chair. I just wanted to step up for a second and voice my feelings on this. This was our Special Services Division that you guys approved, and it's showing its fruits of its labor here, being able to get involved in situations like this. And clearly, I think we need to send a message that if you're going to operate a business here in San Joaquin County, you have to follow the rules, whether it's a massage parlor or any other business. These women are being victimized at this location. And just to say, gee, I'm sorry I didn't understand the rules, I'm going to come and show up every now and then. No, they're being victimized, and people are profiting off of this. These are young ladies alone in a room with men, whether they're willing participants or not. And I think we need to send a message here to all massage parlors and all businesses in San Joaquin County that if you do not follow the rules, there is a price to pay, and you don't get to operate here and have criminal activity victimizing young women in our county. And so I would ask that I know we haven't done this, and the county council just advised me it's been 17 years since something like this, but I think this board needs to set the tone for future boards coming, that in San Joaquin County, we do not put up with criminal activity, and we're going to protect these young women and not allow this to occur.
So, quick follow-up on that, Sheriff. When you mentioned that these women are being victimized, that opens up a whole new sphere of concern. Were these girls, these ladies and the workers, were they interviewed? Do we have an understanding of the circumstances they were in? They were there against their will in any capacity? What was the circumstances behind their...
I'll let the lieutenant answer as far as that. We can't go into too much of the case. It's still going to court. So, and we're trying to be as delicate as we can about what we're saying in public about what has occurred at this location, not to offend people here and watching. But I'll let the lieutenant speak a little bit to that.
So as the sheriff said, this case specifically is still under investigation to the extent as far how far-reaching it is with these employees and other establishments. What we find in these circumstances, just in general terms, is that a lot of the girls that are working for these establishments, we find them at other establishments as well throughout the county. They're typically less than compliant for a variety of reasons. Sometimes when they're brought to this country, The people that bring them here are aware of their family members in the country that they came from, and they're under threat of violence if they don't cooperate with the people that bring them here and force them into this type of trafficking. In this circumstance, specifically, the two women that we talked to did not answer questions to the extent that it indicated to us that they were being trafficked directly. But we always take that with a grain of salt because the information that they provide typically is influenced by a fear of reprisal from either the people that are assisting them here or the people that they work for. They have a lack of resources available to them to escape the environment they're in typically. So we always offer those resources to them and try and identify if that's occurring, but it's very rare that they're forthcoming in what's occurring with them. But we always make the assumption that human trafficking plays a role to some extent in these investigations.
Making an assumption, but that's not 100% certain.
That's correct.
Okay. Understandably.
Correct.
There are people that are being held against their will in many circumstances, and they're not free to speak about that. And I understand that that is absolutely going on, and we see it across our border. We see it throughout the state and country. So thank you. I appreciate it. Through the chair, question for, I guess, the applicant here. The employees, are they paid hourly, or do they come in like in a hair salon? You rent a station, you cut hair, and you have your own clientele per se, and you just pay a fee to the owner to have your station, have that station? Or are the employees, I don't know if the county has any employment records to establish this, but are the employees independent contractors at the location?
I think it's somewhere in between what you describe at a hair salon and a full employee in the typical sense. So this employee, I think, is paid by, I think they pay per customer. So there's a percentage that the owner will retain, and the percentage that would go to the employee. That's why they keep a log in the what they call their laundry room, but the place is so small. That's also a room where they have a shelf, and they keep their paperwork and receipts. And then I guess the employee files a 1099 at the end. She doesn't have a W-2. So I'm not sure where she lies exactly as far as.
So does the employee live on the premise, or do they drive? Does this employee have their own vehicle to drive and return, and
yes,
they're free to come and go?
Yes,
on
yes.
Whatever hours.
Has her own family, her own home. Yes.
Okay.
And she takes vacations. I mean, she doesn't live there. It's really a business that will close at 7:30 at night and opens at 9:30 from Monday to Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
And Sunday they have.
Okay.
They're closed.
All right. Thank you, Chairman. That's all the question I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Rickman.
Thank you, Chair. Now, just a clarification. Are we still waiting for somebody else to come here? Everybody's here.
Everybody's here.
First of all, I want to thank our sheriff. I mean, this is great work in the fact, not just by your deputies and your special unit, but the way this process is unfolding. You know, we have state law, which goes next door to the DA's office, and our county ordinances, which would ultimately come to the board, which we're here today. And, you know, I think you hit the nail on the head. If, you know, we're serious about crime and eliminating criminal activity in this county, we have to take the extra step, be proactive, and have a zero tolerance. And this is just a prime example of this. And so for that, kudos to you and your department. Now, you're looking at the evidence. I mean, there was a proactive investigation. There was sufficient facts to have the elements violated of the ordinance and the terms of the ordinance. And I think this is something that is very, very serious. As you mentioned, you know, the victimization of women, the exploitation of women, you know, possible, you know, human trafficking. I mean, we have to have a zero tolerance, and you're absolutely right in the fact we have to send a message to folks here in San Joaquin County, people visiting in San Joaquin County, adjacent counties, and people who think they're going to come to San Joaquin County and participate in this type of activities. It's not going to happen. If it does happen, you're going to lose your business because of that. So with that being said, I'm for the recommendation and to go ahead with the suspension. So.
Okay. Supervisor Alpuda.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I want to say that, as a business owner, you're responsible for your employees. And I'm glad this came before us because human trafficking is a huge issue, especially in my district, District 1. And I want to thank the Sheriff's Department for bringing us before the board. It's they're all over San Joaquin County, especially in this district. So this needs to be stopped. And I'm glad the special unit is taking advantage of this and really stepping up and trying to stop this because they're all over town. And people get asked us all the time what's going on with those massage parlors all over town. And we need to crack down. We need to do more of this. And unfortunately, this needs to be an example. So I would like to uphold that too. I'd like to second Supervisor Rickman's motion, if that was a motion.
Well, let me finish the public hearing, then we'll. There was a comment, Sheriff, in regards to 17 years. Was that 17 years since action had been taken or 17 years since there was an appeal made?
Through the chair, in my 17 years with the county, I'm not aware of any appeal of this nature coming to the board.
Okay, so it wasn't that the Sheriff's Department hasn't taken action in 17 years,
No,
obviously.
No.
Okay, my other question, this is probably more directed to the Sheriff. I appreciate your efforts, and I guess my question would be, Supervisor Patty was asking County Council in regards to, what's the standard, but I'm sure there's a number of suspensions, revocations, et cetera, that your department provides. So on a general sense, this is not unusual for you to take action against a permittee or licensee, et cetera. Is that correct?
It's not unusual for us to do investigations such as this, whether it's massage parlors or the illegal gambling activities or minors buying alcohol at different businesses. So no, we try and stay on top of that. We're much more able to do it now that we have our special unit that is designated to do this, and we don't have to pull guys off patrol. So you're probably going to see a lot more of this. We're going to be able to be a lot more engaged, a lot more proactive, as I promised when I came in, to be proactive and not just wait for victims to come to us and people to be victimized. And so we're going to be very proactive with everyone in our county to make sure that they're operating properly, just as we are with the marijuana and hemp growers that has started now. So we're trying to stay on top of this so businesses can operate legally and fairly and take care of their employees and not have it negatively affect our county.
Does your department have a policy in regards to revocations or suspensions of these types of licenses or permits?
I'm not aware.
So we don't have a policy specifically, sir. However, we follow the county ordinance as it's listed for massage parlors and for illegal gambling establishments. So the sheriff or his designee has the authority to summarily revoke any business license operating under a massage parlor or any establishment holding themselves out as an illegal gambling establishment specifically. So we initiate this summary revocation, my unit does, served with notice, and then it's really just up to them to decide if they want to appeal or not. So typically, they don't appeal. I think to answer your question is we have revoked many licenses within the last year. Happens to be the first.
I was just curious because I know at times departments have criteria by which the level by which the action you take, minor violations, major violations, one time, et cetera, it at least provides some standardization, for lack of a better term, for your actions. I'm not suggesting that you're making these things, by pulling them out of a hat. I get that. But again, I think it provides the public or anybody who wants to question that, no, this is what our policy is, this is what we do at this level, et cetera. It at least provides some, lack of a better term, consistency. And obviously sheriffs come and go, lieutenants come and go, et cetera. And so it's an opportunity maybe to not just change the landscape, so to speak, with change of administrations. It's an opportunity to provide some consistency. Just a question.
Yeah, I think the lieutenant wants to weigh in on this too also. I would say that's exactly why we have the county ordinance, and that's exactly why we're here. We're complaint-driven sometimes, and other times we're being proactive, and our goal is to enforce the county ordinances as they're put in place, and then it's your guys' job to do that level that you're talking about, from minor to major, on these violations. We just present you the evidence that we find, and then you guys get to make your ruling as far as, okay, we think this is egregious, or this is just minor, and it's something they can fix, and we'll let them move on.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Any other comments from the appellant?
No, sir, thank you. Submit.
Okay, thank you. Anyone wishing to speak in support of the appeal? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to appeal? Okay, thank you very much. I'll close the public hearing. Turn it over to the board for your discretion.
Chair, with your permission, I'll make a motion to deny the appeal of permitting the Fong Lee of the Sheriff's Office summary suspension of a permit to operate Blue Bay Day Spa and Massage Establishment located at 3418 North Delaware Avenue, Stockton, California.
Second.
Okay, we have motion second. Please vote. And it's adopted 5-0 to reject the appeal. Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant. All right, moving on. I'm going to change the order of the next two items. Primarily, I'm going to move the appointment of Olivia Hale to the San Joaquin County Elections Official Registrar of Voters. And then after that, we will have the discussion on election integrity. So, Mr. Wolverine?
Thank you, Chair Wynn. And this is a little bit like deja vu because, as we all know, it was a little over half a year ago that we went through this process when we appointed Heather Diddy as Registrar of Voters. And unfortunately, with her untimely passing this past June, here we are again. And what I'd like to do is share an interesting story, which you won't find the information on the board letter before we move forward. And as you may recall, the ROV office about a year ago was changed so that the reporting was moved to the county administrator's office. And as a part of that change, and after you all had appointed Heather, we had a newly created position of Assistant Registrar of Voters, and that was in early 2022. And when we were looking to fill that position, Heather had come to me and said, you know, Jay, I'd like to try something a little different here. I've spotted somebody in my group who's been here, you know, for a relatively short period of time. She's very talented and very capable, and I would like to take her and put her in this position, and I wanted to get your buy-in in order to do that. And I said, well, if you feel that strongly about it, Heather, I certainly support it. And that was what she did and appointed Olivia. I spent quite a bit of time in the registrar's office in the months up to the primary election because of the new reporting relationship and also because of some of the issues we had in the past. I got to review pretty carefully the materials before they went out, the voter information pamphlet, the ballots, and other various information. And along those lines, I got to know Heather and Olivia pretty well. Heather called me the night before her surgery when she went in the hospital, and she was very, very concerned that with the election being less than a week away, how everything was going to operate and that it would be all right. And I told her she just needed to worry about herself and we would make things work in the registrar's office. And along those lines, she assured me that she thought we were in good hands with Olivia and that regardless of the outcome of her surgery, she thought Olivia would handle things just well. So after we found out that Heather did not survive her surgery and when the ballot printing issue started to mushroom, Olivia and I were pretty much on the bat phone just about a couple times a day. And Olivia kept assuring me, she said, things are going to be okay, believe me. And I did. And we kind of got to know each other even better than we did before. And one of the number of things we found out is she handled the operations of the process very, very well in spite of all the challenges. She handled the media very well. We heard Mr. Gallardo make his comments earlier this morning. She handled questions and inquiries from you all on the Board of Supervisors, in addition to doing the touring that she did with the board, with the media, and even candidates who were concerned about what was going on came down and had many inquiries and did many tours with Olivia. And through all of that, our election was certified 1 week before the deadline. And I certainly think with all of that has gone on, Olivia's definitely earned her stripes. And with that, I'd like to recommend her for appointment to the position of ROV. Thank you.
Any questions or comments? Okay. Before I ask Olivia if you want to make any comments, I assume you have something prepared. Okay.
I just wanted to say it's an honor and blessing to be considered for this position. I promise to deliver fair, impartial, accurate, secure, transparent, and accessible elections for every voter in San Joaquin County. I was born and raised here in San Joaquin County and spent most of my adulthood advocating for our community. As the Registrar of Voters, I will continue to serve our community in my fullest capacity. I have almost 5 years in our elections office. I was recently CalPEAC certified, which is a California Professional Election Administrator Credential Program, which is facilitated by the California Association of Clerks and Elections Officials. We also currently have our office on track to graduate 11 more of our staff members in December from that program. I will address any concerns with election administration utilizing educational opportunities and fully supporting our newly established Election Advisory Committee. Our door is always open, and we are happy to address any questions that the public may have. I was very fortunate to work right beside the late ROV Heather Diddy. We spent our first few months together mapping out how to be of great service to our county. I plan to implement several different strategies to ensure our youth, our community partners, and the citizens of San Joaquin County are engaged in our elections process. The Registrar of Voters Office is a hardworking professional group of people that put their passion into our elections. I want to thank all of them for their dedication to what we do. It is an honor to lead this team. I want to thank Jay Wilverding and his office for the recommendation to the board. I want to thank my husband and children for their support as I have taken on this career in elections. I want to thank Heather Diddy and Austin Erdman for their mentorship over the last 18 months. And thank you, Chair Wynn and the board, for your consideration of my appointment to Registrar of Voters of San Joaquin County. It is my pleasure to serve.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Villapudra.
Thank you, Chairman. Olivia, I just want to say congratulations because you really made us proud during the last election. You worked really hard and you were very engaged, and you took everybody's calls. You went on tours of the ROV and did a really great job, and I was really proud of you, and I'm so happy that you're getting appointed today. So congratulations.
Supervisor or Vice Chair Rickman.
Thank you, Chair. Ms. Hill, congratulations. And I want to reiterate what Supervisor Villapudra said, and Mr. or Frank over there, is that, I mean, you did an exceptional job. I mean, you came in during a tough time, and your transparency and reaching out to folks is what it's all about. You know, if people know exactly what's going on, they feel more at ease. So thank you very much for that. Also, I know you brought your family here too. Want to, recognize your families and toward the back there. I hope you all are very proud. She's done a great job, and so thank you all. I mean, it's easy to say, congratulations to you and all your hard work, but it takes a family. You have to have a supportive family, and it looks very much like so your family is very supportive. So congratulations to all of you too.
Supervisor Miller.
Thank you. I'm just going to add my congratulations. You did a lot during the last election, during the primary, personally, to really help instill trust by the public in the process. We're incredibly transparent, and the tours you did were very instructional. I mean, even those of us who had already done tours of the ROV process before, we were very impressed, and we all learned new things. And so I'm so pleased to And I agree with our county administrator. You have earned your stripes. You really are, I believe, the right person for this job. It's not an easy job, but I think your temperament and your knowledge, your expertise, I think you're exactly the right person for San Joaquin County to serve as our registrar. So congratulations.
Supervisor Patty.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you to CAO for working with and diligently engaging in the ROV's office and the operation. And Ms. Hale, congratulations for becoming our official and the now appointed, or soon to be appointed, I guess, until we take a vote. But I know that as the other supervisors have noted how steady you were, how engaged you are in the process. I know we're going to have a little discussion coming up, and I know you're preparing a report later down the road, very soon, actually, to address those concerns, because we really do want our election integrity, and we want to stop and stem the tide of those that feel disheartened and they feel as though they're working in a jaded system that's unfair and that they shouldn't even participate because they're discouraged. So it's a very big task on a continuous basis, but I know that you're up for this exact task and the job of making sure that we have fair and transparent and very equitable elections. So looking forward to you assuming the full position and role, and then your work in the county, separate from the Board of Supervisors or candidates. So thank you.
Well, obviously a lot of it's been said, but I would add my comments in regards to working with you, through the election process, prior to it, and then certainly after. I also, because Jay and I had a direct line almost constantly, which obviously included your responses to some of the questions that arose, at least gave me the opportunity in many cases to provide a response when asked questions. The other thing that I would say is that through it all, you've just had a positive attitude. In spite of, I know the tremendous pressure that you received from some board members, for example, but more importantly, I think obviously the public had some concerns. But I would say I was at a meeting just about a week and a half ago, and there was a lot of discussion from that group in regards to the election. And obviously, as raised earlier today and probably raised again, in regards to the election integrity, et cetera. But after the meeting, while I was leaving, several members approached me and made a comment that we needed to appoint you as registrar because they thought you were just fantastic. And so the reason I say that is because sometimes, in spite of the adversity and the negativism that occurs, you've risen above that. And everybody that I've talked to has been extremely positive. I understand the machines. I understand the ballots. I understand those things. But I think, and one of the things in our discussions in regards to this Citizens Committee is that the purpose of it is not to answer questions from either the board or from you, although I think most people really appreciate your transparency and integrity. But I think the committee adds the public element, which we don't. And the reason I say that is because at least by adding public members and whatever the recommendations come out of that report, at least it has public input, which hopefully, to some degree, increases, I guess, the belief that we're doing everything we can, and the things that happened were corrected, and we'll be moving forward into the November election. So, again, I want to thank you for all the efforts you've made. I know you're going to make a fantastic registrar of voters. I know in the conversations we've had, and when I was in Colorado at a national supervisors conference, this isn't the only registrar of voters or state that's going through all these machinations. It's everywhere. But again, I think San Joaquin County is truly blessed to have somebody like yourself to wade through all the challenges that we face to come out the other end. So having said that, I do have a comment from the public. Alex Aferis.
Yes. I sent a request in for information, public records request, an email, never got anything back. So, I mean, do I think that this is a department that kind of responds to its citizens? My opinion, maybe not. You know, is there a smoke screen where I've taken a tour too? We're showing this and this and that. You start digging deeper, and I'll let you know that I've been to Europe, and there's a lot of countries out there where the system, they don't go out of appointing people with qualifications or meritocracy. It's about who you know, not what you know. It happens a lot in the nation of Greece, where I go there regularly, and I've know people involved in politics there, and it's not only that, and you know, I have to question some stuff. Sometimes we have to devolve to questioning. 4 or 5 years, she gets out of the university, and now she's appointed as register of voters. Tell me of a person that gets out of a university and gets appointed to a high job within 4 or 5 years without having any personal insight level. I know she worked in there, and I'm not engaging in any personal, you know. It's not, but I'm just kind of questioning the process. Who was this person that recommended her in the department? Not saying, you know, she knows her stuff. She worked in the department, the process, I get it. What I'm trying to get at is, in our system today, it's about protecting the system. And when there's citizens out there kind of questioning things and not, you know, trying to get answers and going deep and deep and trying to find the truth, and then you have those from the system that are trying to demonize citizens who have strong concerns, because some of us have experience in politics overseas. Well, you know, these are concerns I just have to raise. That's all.
Okay. On the second request to speak, Alex? On the second request to speak, which item? Because I'm not quite sure if it says, I assume it's 1, is that correct?
Oh, no, it was, it was regarding, I guess you guys switched it.
Well, I got,
basically for the other discussion.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I've got 2, which is this one. 1 is for the discussion. Okay, got it. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, then I'll turn it over to the board.
I would move to approve the appointment of Olivia Hale as our Registrar of Voters.
Chair, if I could interrupt 1 second. I know, did somebody?
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
My apologies. I just wanted to follow up with what my friend Alex just said. If there's a CPRA that needs to be answered, I would respectfully request that the county processes his CPRA. I'm assuming that will be done. 209 times, I just want to make it very clear, we really do support Olivia, and the reason we support her is because she has been transparent with us and she's been answering all our questions. I also want to say that I appreciate that the board is proceeding with this issue of election integrity, because there are some very serious questions. Personally, my feeling is a lot of these questions are actually issues that should be addressed at the state level. I think some of these things, what we have is a situation where we have the ROV who has to deal with, for example, I'm not a big fan of everybody getting a ballot in the mail. That's personally, I don't like that we don't have a voter day anymore. That's kind of a voter month. I don't like that. That said, a lot of these issues go beyond what Olivia can do and what she can't do, because she has to operate within the law. So I think you guys are making the right decision by supporting her. That said, I also want to make it clear to everyone here that still has concerns that 209 times is still, we're not giving just a green light to everything. If there's CPRAs that haven't been responded to, I expect those to be responded to, and I'm going to respectfully follow up with my own CPRA to find out what his CPRA is and find out why that wasn't answered. So thank you. I just wanted to say that, but I appreciate it.
Anyone else?
And Chair, I'll second Supervisor Miller's motion.
Okay. And that's adopted 5-0. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, moving back to item number 1. Discuss current practices, opportunities to address constituent concerns on voter election integrity in the county. Supervisor Patty.
Thank you, Chairman. I felt because there are so many concerns in the public and there's a lot of I think issues of concern to that point. I wanted to agendize this to hear from County Council and from our ROV's office as possible at this stage. I know that the ROV is coming forward with a bigger report, but my reason for recommending, I'll just read what I've got here, is San Joaquin County Board of Supervisors has heard repetitive allegations of potential election lack of integrity during the public comments period, including phone calls and emails to the Board of Supervisors offices in the past few months. A discussion by the board to address some of these issues being brought forward is recommended as the midterm general election are just 90 plus days away. During the primary election this past June, 3 out of 10 San Joaquin County voters participated, and we need to assess how we can perhaps raise the confidence level and bring this number to a higher level of involvement. This will also be an opportunity to share how many of the concerns and complaints are controlled by state law, therefore are not county controlled or regulations. And to that point, for some people to keep coming in and asking for us to change state law, I would strongly recommend you are engaging at the state level because we have no authority to do that. So, Chairman, I would actually turn to our, through the chair, to County Council to maybe shed some light on some of the talking points and the concerns that have been raised. And we understand that, all concerns are valid. It's citizens' rights to speak out about these concerns. So I was wondering if there's some of them that we could address, and then Ms. Hale might be available to answer some additional and some public comment perhaps. But I'd like to kind of maybe drill in on some of these issues that repetitively come to our attention as a board and through you as County Council.
Chair, thank you, Supervisor Patty. Mr. Gallardo has already referenced that many of the requirements that the ROV has to comply with are not county requirements, but they are state requirements. Those, specifically, he referenced the mailing of the ballots and the month-long period within which to return all of the mail ballots. That's by state law. That's not something that the registrar of voter has control. The requirement, many people say we should go to all paper ballots because of the ADA and the requirements from federal law. We have to have some ability to have the electronic voting mechanisms at the poll places in order to accommodate those people who have particular needs. We have heard a number of times that we should eliminate the ballot drop boxes. Again, that's a requirement under state law that we have the ballot drop boxes. There are other questions that you have, Supervisor Patty. I'd be glad to
and some of these may not be up for you to answer, and again, perhaps Ms. Hale might. But when we hear about all paper ballots, I don't know the exact percentage, but I know that we are paper ballots. We use paper ballots, but we do have, by law, accessible electronic voting for those that are incapable of utilizing that paper ballot process. To our ROV, Ms. Hale, that's correct. We have, you keep hearing, we need to go back to paper ballots. It's my understanding, I know I fill out a paper ballot. I know that even the mail-in ballots are paper. Is there something other than, the majority of our ballots are paper, is that correct?
That is correct. Actually, all of our ballots are paper. The device we're referring to is actually a ballot marking device. It's called a touch writer. And so what happens is when the voter with a specific need, there's a language barrier, a vision barrier, a mobility issue, they can use those devices, they vote on it, and then that machine prints out their paper ballot. They're able to review it to confirm that it has exactly what they voted for, and then they're able to submit that into the ballot box, and it's tabulated just like everyone else's ballots as well. So, understood.
Through the chair, since you're here and we have a discussion, and thank you, County Council, for bringing up some of the obvious that there are things at the state level that we have to do mail-in ballots. The process is 1 month long, not 1 day, and we have to have drop boxes. So these are facts for the state that we impose, that are imposed to us. We have no levity, correct?
That's correct. And so when we're going to come back to the board September 27th to go in more detail to all of this, we're going to work with County Council. We're actually going to work with the Secretary of State and then my office as well. We're going to do a comprehensive presentation to address all the following concerns with that legal analysis from County Council, facts from the state about election administration, a review from an operational perspective that my office will provide. We also share what can be done with an educational overview of the 2022 general election and a status update for you of where we're at that point. I plan to address voting systems versus hand count, paper ballots only, no electronic devices, including addressing concerns around the poll pad, no drop boxes, the no VBM ballots, imposing more ID requirements, and updating the voter rolls. I want to go over each of those topics in more detail with my perspective, and then allowing County Council to elaborate on, of course, the legal perspective, and then we'll share what the Secretary of State mandates on those different topics. So we're working in collaboration with each of the three offices. So the request to postpone it until September 27th was so that we're not just off the cuff giving a presentation today, but giving an opportunity to really get detailed oriented on these different topics so that we can address the concerns of our constituents and give them clarity on each of these different topics. So that was the plan that we had in place. Due to the administration of the current election, as you know, we're in the last week of candidate filing. We're very focused in our office on that, and we want to take that time to collaborate. In the meantime, for any of the public, if they have any things they would like to add to this list that they would like us to try to address, they can just email our office at registrar@sjgov.org, and any concerns that or .gov, if they have any other things they want us to add, we're more than happy to discuss those at that time while we're putting it together. So.
Excellent. So do you mind if I delve into a couple of the issues that were brought up this morning, and you may have some answers, and I know they're going to be much more comprehensive on the 27th. But like we've heard that there's a statistical impossibility for votes and counts and numbers and ballots that are turned in. And again, that may be more of a comprehensive review. And those concerns are very valid. I'm not negating in any capacity somebody that feels that there's something there's an irregularity. And I know that you, above all else, will take that very seriously and address these issues. Is there anything lightly you could touch on it, or would you rather reserve any comments on that for the more comprehensive presentation?
I would like to reserve comments, but we're also working with the Sheriff's Office to address some of the anomalies that the public has brought forth. And so I'm working very closely with the Sheriff right now, and so I'd like to work with him through that before we present it to the public so we can make sure it's accurate and correct to the best of our ability, if that's okay.
No, absolutely. Fair enough. And that's, again, this was just to bring out, we've got members of the public, which we're thankful that they're here. They're bringing up questions. And, I know that I've seen candidates give messages to their followers and their supporters saying the system is fantastic. Make sure you get out and vote, mail in your ballots, bring it to a drop box, and they're embracing the process. And then we've got some people that are disenfranchised, and they're perhaps speaking in a manner that may lead others to believe that the system isn't good, the system's bad, the system is not worth participating in, and we have a low voter turnout of 7 out of 10 people did not turn in ballots, you have to wonder why. So, I personally, and there'll be public comments here on this discussion point, but I personally would encourage people to engage in the process. If you're allowed to knock on your neighbor's door and make sure their ballot is turned in and they sign in, it's legal to do so, to assist somebody in getting their ballot turned in, I would encourage people to do that so that you're not feeling as though the system is operating without you. Feel free to participate with the system so that your vote and your neighbor's vote or your cousin's ballot that may not have been turned in, you've actually reached out to that person and you've assisted them in making sure the ballot is turned in. So that's what I would, my statement on that. So, Chairman, I think that's all at this time. I'd like to thank County Council for giving us a briefing, and I know that there's more to come later in September. Thank you.
Any other comments? Vice Chair Rickman?
Just real quick, Chair. Thank you. I just want to remind everybody, too, in the beginning of the meeting, we appointed 5 individuals for the San Joaquin County Citizen Election Review Advisory Committee, too. So that'll be another check and balances, and hopefully we'll get some answers there.
Supervisor Miller?
Through the chair.
Yes.
I apologize. Unless Supervisor Miller has comments, I did receive a public comment to read.
Okay. Hold on a second. Okay. It didn't. I actually see Vice Chair Rickman's picture. Hard to believe.
I mean, you're a lucky man.
I know. I'm ecstatic. All right. So, having said that, I would agree in regards to Director Hale's, Richard, I don't know what your title, registrar. I guess that's the okay. We've all had opportunities. I've been to several meetings. In fact, I was fortunate enough at one meeting they gave me all these documents, which I know you've seen, which are pretty thorough. But I also know in meeting with Olivia and our CAO that you have been working on this since we first started receiving concerns. And I guess one of the things that I would say is that my intent for creating this public review committee, we can sit up here and Olivia, I have tremendous faith in you. You can answer questions. You've answered my questions for the most part, which makes sense. But I think that probably, as Supervisor Patty has alluded to, I think the report on the 27th with input from the Citizen Election Review Committee will be important because it is also a response from not just the bureaucrats, so to speak. It's a response from the public. And I know we've talked about the meetings, probably 2 meetings, one to provide orientation, information, tours, presentations, a variety of presentations to the 5 members and their alternates. But then based upon that and all the information that we've all received like this, get their input as to things that they think should be raised or corrected or whatever, add that to your report, and then come back and let the board weigh in as to what we want to really do, and certainly include the public in regards to those decisions that are important to future elections, obviously November and beyond. So having said that, Supervisor Patty.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. As a follow-up, are we opening up to public comment? Because I did have a question for a couple of our public members that have raised some concerns.
Well, first we were doing comments from the board, which I just finished, and then we're opening up public comment. I have one request to speak from Mr. Alferez, and that was the next. Did you have another comment to make?
Well, I have a question for any of them. Maybe Mr. Alferez could address that. But as he's coming up and you're opening up public comment, it was presented some information that 16,000 ballots, and then there was were received, and all of a sudden 17,000 something tabulations, and there's a statistical anomaly going on, and there's certain numbers of or certain I guess candidates who benefited from this mathematical discrepancy. So my question would be, does anybody have any idea who is behind the manipulation. Like, I have no idea what candidates benefited or what the connection is, or is there a foreign government connection or something? We don't.
Carla, before you speak, if first of all, let me let Alex. It's his turn, and then I would ask you to come forward and answer his question.
I mean, there's a number, but the machines are the main issue. These ballots are being fed into these machines, and that's, whereas in certain countries, they do have hand ballot, like in France, and they don't have these machines. They will just basically hand count. They don't have the machines. Even though you have paper ballot, you still have to feed these paper ballots into the machine. Machine gets the data. Okay, so that's the main, that's the issue right there. The other thing is that I have friends that came up to me and they said, I tried to come into the same day voting, because I don't vote absentee ballot unless if I'm out of state working. And I've done that maybe twice because I was out of state working a couple times in past years. But some people approached me and says, I tried to turn in my absentee ballot and they said already voted. There was issues of that. And there's other experts that said that if people are kind of unsure that their vote doesn't count, absentee ballot is not the way to go, because there's these, and I know it's state law, but citizens need to turn in their absentee ballot, make sure it's destroyed, and request a paper ballot at the precinct, same day. Don't do the absentee ballots. That kind of invites a lot of issues. And there's experts that have gone into this. I've been to a forum down in Fresno. There's a guy that has been doing this type of data. I should have brought my notes here. Maybe next time I'll bring it or something like that, or make comments. But that's what he talked, and that's it. There's a lot of issues. Why are people that have been deceased still in the voter rolls? Why are there? I see a code, and if you read some of the Secretary of State code, for example, a 16 to 17-year-old is allowed to pre-register. Does that make sense? And this was amended, I got to go back, maybe 2 years. It doesn't make sense. 16, 17-year-old could pre-register to vote. I mean, when I remember, I turned 18. I registered. There was the election that just went by or not. Okay, no problem. I don't care. It happens. But to pre-register someone at 16, of course, that's a state level. It's ridiculous. What's going on here? So there's a lot of issues out there. The main thing is the machines.
Mr. Alvarez, before you leave, just a quick comment or question. You obviously have done your research, made a lot of suggestions. Have you documented those so that you could turn them in to either my office or the Register of Voters? Because what we want to do with this committee is to gather all information that has come in to make a determination as to what we can.
I've written a report when I went down to Fresno in February, and there's several experts that talked. And, one guy has been in this he had a nonprofit. And the guy is non-political. He's apolitical. And this guy's been in it since probably the year 2000, 2002, when these machines were being brought up. The guy has a wealth of information. I mean, I took some synopsis of the notes. And there's some other stuff that they said at the conference. And these were people that were basically investigating the whole process in the system. Okay. So there is people out there who've been investigating, have detailed information. Okay. I got this New York Times article. Of course, I'm going to make copies and submit it so you guys could take a look at it. It was published in 2007. I know she has a study back there of like a scientific study of these computer scientists. I'm not a major computer scientist, but if you do your research, you could find this information. It's like if you read the Secretary of State Code and you start learning, oh, okay, paper ballots. Well, the county can use paper ballots. There is no restriction.
We do.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
But the main count is
you
the
keep
voting
asking
machines.
for paper ballots, guys.
It's the voting machines, the tabulators. So
okay,
yeah.
Thank you.
Keep asking for paper ballots. We have them. I am mystified of how everybody keeps coming forward and saying we need paper ballots in San Joaquin County. What part of we have paper ballots do you not understand, Alex?
It's the voting machines. Those paper ballots are being fed into the machine. That's the main contention right there.
Okay, so we have paper ballots. You would admit that. Your just concern is the actual
Paper
machines.
ballots, hand counted. You need hand counted, not to be fed into a machine where it could be manipulated, hacked, broken into, because, there's been reports on that. These machines could be hacked into. And so once you feed it in there, it's like, data could be manipulated. There could be something in there.
So through the chair, I'll just continue this conversation. Thank you, Alex, for being here. So I remember meeting with Miss Diddy when she was here, and we talked about the hacking into machines that aren't connected to the internet. So I'm kind of mystified of how anybody's going to hack into the machines if they're not connected to the internet. It's my impression, taking a tour, that those machines are impartial. They have electronic eyes, and they do counting, and there's a verification process. Would that be correct?
It is. After an election is completed, before we can certify, we actually do what we call a 1% manual tally. And what that is we have to randomly select 1% of our precincts to do a hand count on them to verify that the machines accurately accurately tabulated the election. And so we actually did 2% of the precincts. So we did 6 precincts this election out of the 204. And everything came up accurately. And in our presentation on the 27th, I'll provide that document so that we can showcase that to the public. And I think their concerns are truly coming from not understanding how it's done. And so as we develop the committee and we move forward, we're going to provide the resources to showcase whatever questions they have. And so that's very important. And whatever side you fall on, if you like what we do, if you're concerned about what we do, we want to answer all of those questions. And, we want to take the time needed to be able to answer those appropriately and more thorough. So.
Could you share also just offhand, what is the rejection rate of ballots with bad signatures? I was speaking with somebody that they told their husband, just fill it out, sign it for me, and the office called and said, your signatures don't match. Would you like to come on down and verify? And they, oh my gosh, yes. So they went down there and did the new signature, and their ballot was accepted. What's the rejection rate for the fraud that might be going on in the ballots? Because I see in the sorting system, there are ballots turned in by mail, and the signatures don't match.
So what happens is any signature that doesn't match is challenged, is what we call it. They're segregated into their own bins from our sorting machine, and then we send to every single voter in there a cure letter that actually goes to the resident. So the same address that we mailed that ballot to, before we make the phone call, we're sending that letter to correspond with that voter at the address in which they're actually registered to. Once that has occurred, usually the voter will call in, or they'll send the letter back, and then at that time we'll take that cure letter signature and we'll match that, and if it's accurate, then we'll count that. And so we actually only had about, and don't quote me on these numbers, but I think it was only about 1,200 ballots that actually stayed challenged and were not made good after this election. But again, I'd have to go back and look at those numbers. But there were several, and just like when we mail things and they're out of county or out of state, those come back to us undeliverable, and then we change their status in our system and we cancel that voter because we've received return election mail. So there's a lot of processes, and again, I want to definitely take that opportunity on the 27th to showcase all of these items and to go into detail in September for everyone. So
great, thank you, and I appreciate that. I'm going to put you on the spot a couple of questions. Chairman, is it the intent from the committee that I think was a fantastic idea that you had come up with, is the intent that they will engage with the ROV's office and bring forth and review and be part of that conclusive presentation on the, or more extensive presentation on the later part of September?
Well, the intent of the committee is to obviously provide input to the Registrar of Voters report. And the reason the committee is important because that's the one body that has public input, as opposed to just the registrar of voters, the CO's office, the board of supervisors. And so I'm sure Olivia will have the opportunity to address their recommendations that I assume probably would coincide with her recommendations, but it adds another layer of transparency, I'll put it that way, as opposed to just, county employees or county departments. So that's the importance of the Citizen Review Committee, is to add that extra layer of review to then provide some, I don't want to say legitimacy, but certainly consistency in regards to what we either have already done, which has happened, or certainly things we want to do. And I would just offer this, not to be secretive, but I think Olivia has come up with some suggestions. We've both done some research, and I think she has some ideas that I think will go beyond the November election. So I think that's important. So other than that, I think we're in sync with I think what you're looking for, and certainly what hopefully the public will be satisfied with. Supervisor Lapudua.
Thank you, Chair. I believe our sheriff would like to say a few words.
Thank you, Supervisor Villapudua, through the chair. I just want to address a couple times. My name came up that they wanted the sheriff's office to get involved, and I wanted to address those issues. I've been supplied with the documents with a lot of you have been supplied with. I got my detectives immediately involved in this. We've reached out to Ms. Hale's office. We're actually meeting, I believe it's tomorrow afternoon, regarding this. And she's been completely open from the moment I got notified several weeks or months back, contacted her and let her know what was the concerns are and the documents were going, and we shared these with her and with the Secretary of State's office, and she had already started her own investigation. As soon as somebody made allegations, she contacted the Secretary of State's office, asking them to open up an investigation also. So we're going to meet, discuss this, and with my detectives, and make sure that we stay on top of it. I want everyone to know that just because we think we have a decent system going here, we're going to take all that data and make sure that we get those answers for those folks to the best of our abilities, to make sure that, as Supervisor Patty and everyone else has mentioned, that people feel confident with our system here, and we would love it to be the gold standard for everybody else around. So been more than cooperative, and we're going to dig into those numbers and get those answers for everybody concerned, and I'm sure it'll all be involved in her report, and we'll stay on top of it.
Thank you, Sheriff. Any other questions or comments?
Through the chair.
Sure.
Mr. Alaferis, you said that you'd submitted a CPRA request and hadn't received a response. My deputy indicates that she emailed you a response yesterday. If you'd provide your email address to the deputy clerk, I would just want to make sure that we have the right email address. Okay. All right. If you haven't received it, let me know and we'll resend it.
Any other comments from the public? Clerk of the board?
Public comment was submitted by Sam, who writes, same-day voter ID, no mail-in ballots, no drop boxes, no early voting, and no expletive cheat machines. Public comments.
Well, that was interesting. Thank you,
Chairman, if I could just conclude one more thing. I had a conversation through the chair with County Counsel's office that I had asked him that what we had, state law that allowed that or restricted us that during COVID we couldn't be more lenient than state law, but we could be more restrictive. So I'm asking County Counsel, which will be part of perhaps the presentation, it should be part of the presentation, as County Counsel has indicated, what we could, like for instance, I agree, voter ID. I agree in anything that's not, of course, voter suppression, which we all would support. But and it's 70-something% of the nation believes in voter ID, but not getting into that discussion or debate. We are looking at what, if any, additional measures we could take by law, but oftentimes we may not be able to take. We could not, for example, require voter ID in San Joaquin County if it's not permissible in the state of California. So there are things we may or may not be able to do. County Council will be looking at it so that we do want to assure voter integrity for our county and for our citizens. So the concerns that you bring up are not negligible. It's something that, let's address them. Let's identify them. And I think our chairman's action to put forward a committee that's going to work with the ROV's office is going to be a fantastic step. And I'm imagining the committee will be ongoing so that not only do we look at what's coming up for this report and addressing the concerns, but there's a steady level of engagement in the future elections. So thank you, Chair. I think that's all for now, but just letting the public know that we're looking at what additional safety parameters we could incorporate, if any. So that's all. Thanks.
Thank you. All right. Moving on to item number 3, introduce and waive reading of uncodified ordinance approving military equipment use policy with the San Joaquin County Sheriff's Office. I see we have.
I'll kick it off again. Chair Wynn.
Be my guest.
In September of 2021, Governor Gavin Newsom signed into law Assembly Bill 481 relating to law enforcement use of items defined by the bill as military equipment. Assembly Bill 481 requires law enforcement agencies to formulate a military equipment use policy and to bring the policy to the agency's governing board, this body, for approval in the form of an ordinance. The Sheriff's Office has created a draft policy in compliance with AB 481, which will be incorporated within the Sheriff's Office Policy Manual as Policy Section 708 Military Equipment, a copy of which is attached to the board letter and was previously provided to the board. In compliance with the requirements of 481, the policy has been published in the Sheriff's Office website, and as I said, was provided to the board back in May 3rd of 2022. Adopting the ordinance, the statute requires that the board make the following findings: that the military equipment possessed by the Sheriff's Office is necessary because there are no reasonable alternatives which can achieve the same objective of officer and civilian safety, that the proposed military equipment use policy will safeguard the public's welfare, safety, civil rights, and civil liberties, that in purchasing military equipment, the equipment is reasonable, cost-effective compared to available alternatives to achieve the same objective of officer and civilian safety, and that prior military equipment use complied with any prior military equipment use policy that was in effect at the time, or if prior use did not comply with the accompanying policy, corrective action has been taken to remedy non-conforming uses and ensure future compliance. And with that, I'll turn it over to the Sheriff's Office.
Okay, thank you. Sheriff?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So yeah, I first thing I wanted to address is the fact that this is labeled military equipment. I know that sounds very intimidating, and I'm sure the people in Sacramento who wrote this thought of it as possibly military equipment, but I'm going to let Lieutenant Terriall go through this, but I think you're going to be surprised at what they've determined is military equipment. Examples are like our drones that we can go by anywhere is determined to be a military equipment, and some of our rifles and things like that. So, and some of it is like our patrol rifles that we use. You know, we got years ago our AR-15s, the assault rifles that we have. Fortunately, that we have to carry nowadays. We did get those from the military, and that just saved us a tremendous amount of money, and most agencies have those. And so I just don't want people to think that we're talking about tanks and all that type of stuff. So I'll let Lieutenant Terriall kind of step in here and let you know what we've got.
Good morning. As the Sheriff stated, the equipment we have here, we have very few items that are actually received from DRMO, which would be the military type stuff. So running down the list of items, I'll go with the UAS, unmanned aircraft systems. None of these were acquired through DRMO, through the military. These are all purchased through private companies. The intent is to assist us with searching for missing persons or clearing residences prior to sending any personnel in for safety reasons.
Mr. Chair, maybe we should, instead of going through every piece of equipment, if there's a certain questions that you guys have or some of your constituents have about any of the equipment that we have, I think the most visible one we have is our Bearcat, and that's that big piece of equipment that transports our tactical teams into situations. Maybe you could talk a little bit about the Bearcat and then any other individual ones that you guys have.
So the Bearcat specifically was purchased several years ago through a grant. It is specifically an armored personnel carrier. We use it on our tactical team to transport our SWAT team there. So if rounds are fired from the residence, they're protected. We've used it on several operations for dignitary protection purposes, where if the dignitaries were to be extracted, they would be placed in the Bearcat so we can drive them away safely. But that's literally what it is. It's a Ford vehicle, Ford F-450 chassis with armored capabilities.
So we'd kind of open it up back to you guys. I'd have a question about it, the Bearcat, because we didn't have it in my day. Does it stop all rounds? Is it certain things that will go through it?
It will stop all rifle rounds. The weak points would be the ballistic glass. At some point, they will give away.
Okay. So yeah, we kind of open it back up to you if this is the way you'd like to do it, or if you'd like, we will go through every piece if you so desire.
Well, I think all of us have at least looked at their initial report. I was kind of surprised at some of the equipment you have, which is pretty awesome, to be honest with you. For example, 50 caliber and those types of things, which I understand. But I guess when I first looked at the title when you sent it back in May, is that I thought they were looking for military equipment that's been purchased or released to the counties. It's not. I mean, because you go down the list and you look at Zero, which obviously we got it either grant or through the military, but then there's a whole bunch of other stuff which you paid, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars for. So I guess my concern about the whole issue from the legislature is, I know there's been a push in regards to even the uniforms of police officers and the equipment they could carry, trying to be less, I guess, oppressive, so to speak, in certain areas. I'll be honest, I came from an area where we didn't have handheld radios. We had a wood stick, a revolver, and a radio that had an outside speaker.
And a horse, I believe.
There were some horses around, exactly. And you hung the microphone over the spotlight. My point is, we have made so many great changes in regards to training and equipping our officers and deputies that, some of the things you talk about, which obviously would be military, you look at the Hollywood bank robbery, you look at some of the things that occurred, and just the mere thing which I don't get with the rifles. We got rifles, this is a long time ago, because the shotgun was ineffective at long range. And where I worked over the Grapevine into San Fernando Valley, there's a lot of open territory, which a shotgun is absolutely useless. So my point is, I think what you have, I hope, is sufficient to protect your deputies in any situation, from the minimal to the most aggressive, and that's what I saw in the report. And again, I think from my vantage point, it's kind of a no-brainer that obviously the board adopted, but I think everything you have there is certainly important and useful. So.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It is. Most of our stuff that we have nowadays is driven by, as you said, incidents that occurred where officers were pinned down and couldn't respond and couldn't protect themselves or their citizens. As you talk about the Hollywood shootout, we did not have the rifles, ARs in our cars at that time. We have our shotguns, which we still do. And I remember those officers having to run to nearby gun stores to try and gather weapons to at least try and combat and protect the citizens down there. And so we try and be very cognizant. You brought up uniforms and stuff like that, and our appearance, and we do not want to scare our citizens. We want them to have confidence in what we do and how we do it, and we want to be approachable by them, so we try and strike that balance. But on the other side of that, our mere presence is part of the use of force continuum. And if we can deter someone from doing something they normally wouldn't do by either our presence, or if we arrive in a hostage situation and they see the Bearcat come up and our tactical team come out, and their mere presence gets someone to give up and not challenge us, then we want that also. You should also know we try to be very responsible with what we ask for, as you know, and I think even our 50 caliber rifles that you talked about, I believe we got those out of evidence that were seized in a case.
That's correct.
Were disposed by the courts, and instead of having to buy new ones, we were able to use those, and those are for our snipers to be able to use from a long distance. As you say, we are partly rural out here, and that can happen also. So we are keenly aware of our the public's view of us, and we want to make sure that we strike that balance of safety and being able to do our jobs and yet not being intimidating. And we even have a nice new cowboy hat that we wear to try and make us a little more approachable. So,
well, my experience as shown, Sheriff, is it isn't the uniform, it's the individual wearing it that makes a difference. And through not only your community deputy program, but other programs where the public gets to know your deputies firsthand, they don't care what you're wearing, because they just know they want to be assured that they can protect them in any situation. So again, Vice Chair Rickman.
Thank you, Chair. And I agree with you, Sheriff. You know, they have to strike that balance. But I just wanted to throw this out there. You know, when people talking about, you know, I've heard it before, hey, do you really need an armored vehicle? Do you really need a Bearcat? And this was an article from August 1st from the National Fraternal Order of Police. You know, they announced that over 200 police officers have been shot so far this year, and this was August 1st. Number of officers shot up 14% from this time in 2021, and this year is not even over yet. 210 officers shot, 39 officers killed by gunfire, 71 officers shot in 46 separate ambush-style attacks. So is there a need to protect our officers with armored vehicles? And absolutely there is. I mean, we want our men and women to come home after shift, and they have families like everybody else. And so I just wanted to put that statistic out there to remind people of what our men and women in law enforcement are going through. I mean, I think there is a crisis out there with violence against the police, and we see it all. You know, it seems like almost weekly we have an officer shot or attacked or assaulted. I mean, see that New York subway incident. So, you know, just wanted to throw that out there. So thank you.
Supervisor Patty.
Thank you, Chairman. I would just reiterate what Supervisor Rickman has just said, and every piece of equipment that you guys can use for safety for yourselves and also enhance public safety. We support and glad that you have it. Being budget conscious as we are and looking for ways that we can help accentuate the sheriff's office with revenue, can we rent out that Bearcat for bachelor parties? Are we covered in insurance for that?
Don't think we're going to be able to do that, but
no. Okay, I'm just thinking of revenue source for you guys if you ever need more equipment. But
thank you for thinking of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Any other comments? Any comments from the public? Clerk of the board, nothing? Okay. All right, we need a motion and a...
We'll make a motion to approve.
Okay. Second.
Vote. And it's adopted 5-0. Thank you, Sheriff. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And I'd just like to mention again, Lieutenant Terrill, he's in charge of our tactical team. He's the one who makes sure our guys are safe and trained. He did this whole document and does an amazing job for us. So I just wanted to recognize him for that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to the Board of Supervisors comments and committee reports. Supervisor Villapudra.
Thank you, Chairman. Just want to recognize all the people who came out for National Night Out. I think Chris and I attended 11 events. We had amazing support from the Sheriff's Department, fire departments. We're all there. Good turnout, good barbecue, good people, and we had a great time. Thank you.
Supervisor Patty.
Thank you, Chair. Briefly, I wanted to bring up, I know I have to agendize this, I believe. And to that point, I know that there was concern last year when I was chairman that any supervisor might ask for something and there might be an expenditure outside of board approval, and it was reviewed and by the CAO, and we fully adopted that because nobody had a problem with that. But I just wanted, case in point, about a year plus ago when I was chairman, I've asked the clerk of the board to come forward with and present to the board possibly new revised certificates that we often give out to the public, but that's yet to happen. So I know this isn't a discussion point, but I'm wondering if I believe I need to agendize this, because for it to take a year and it's still not done, I'm thinking we need to agendize and maybe get a budget approval to a couple $100 or $500 to get some designs brought to bring back to the board, or have that discussion if the board is even interested in revising what I believe was kind of a dated certificate. So I was going to agendize it for today, but I think there was some lack of clarity as to why I wanted to agendize it. So again, this isn't the time for discussion because it's not on the agenda, but I'd like to do that for the next board meeting so we can hear from clerk of the board. A year later, we still don't have my interest fulfilled, may not be the interest of all the boards, so let's do an agenda and discussion on it. And that's all I have for right now. Thank you, Chair.
Supervisor Miller.
Thank you. I would also like to congratulate all of the neighborhoods that got together on National Night Out. It's a really positive annual event, and it's a great way for our residents to interact with first responders and all the people that are involved in helping keep their neighborhoods safe. So congratulations to all the neighborhoods. And also, this is really a time for committee reports, and really it's a very quiet time of the year in terms of meetings, but I just want to report to the board that the environmental impact report for the proposed tunnels through tunnel now through the Delta has been released for public comment, and the Delta Counties Coalition, of which we are one of the 5 counties, we are all actively engaged in reviewing that EIR and preparing comments, which I believe are due in October.
I believe that's correct. The date escapes my mind at the moment, but I believe it is October.
I believe it's in October. So I just wanted the board to know that our county and our staff is actively involved in that process, and we'll be hearing more about that as we get closer.
Vice Chair Rickman.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of things. Over the weekend, I attended the 4th Annual Women's Empowerment event over in Tracy. I just want to say congratulations to Community Advocate Joanne Grigonis and our Planning Commissioner Jazz Singer for being recognized for all the positive things that they do in their community. And I also want to say thank you to the guest of honor, which was Bollywood actress Sarah Ali Khan, for her support to come to Tracy. Also, I attended over the weekend on the Escalon Centennial Park Feet, which is 100 years of tradition and community. And it's always great to see parades in our cities. It's a way for our community to come together, celebrate tradition, get to know each other, and have a good time. Also, myself and Supervisor Patty's office had the opportunity to join the San Joaquin, California Women of Agriculture for a tour of the Vanderschaft Dairy in Escalon. And it was great to see Councilmember Alicia Davis also present on their tour. And just another opportunity to discuss agriculture, farming. It is the #1 industry in our county, to make sure we have all the knowledge that we can to fight for our agriculture families and industry. And like Supervisor Villapud was talking about, National Night Out is fun. I know our office, we were in Mountain House, Tracy, Escalon and Ripon, and the counties. So I want to thank my Chief of Staff, Scott Tyrell, for going out there with myself and meeting all the neighbors. I know I've been doing it as long as I can remember, and probably 15 plus years. So it's always a good time to see the community come together. And I want to say congratulations to Tom and Sally Hale from Escalon for being chosen as senior Mr. and Mrs. Escalon. And two more things, Chair, and one of them being I had the honor to welcome Swamji to San Joaquin County and Tracy. It was a great event, a great honor to be present. And also, lastly, to say congratulations to Lumberyard Sellers on their 1-year anniversary in Escalon. If you haven't been there and you are in South County, you live toward Escalon, Lumberyard Sellers, great place to go sit outside, have a glass of wine or beer, or listen to some music and just relax with your, maybe a date night or so with your spouse or girlfriend. So congratulations to them. And that is it, Chair. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Well, unfortunately, my district is a little larger than Supervisor Laputa, so I wasn't able to make 11, but made plenty. You're all familiar with the executive order from the governor in regards to drilling permits, and we've been working through that process, public works, environmental health, et cetera, and so that's in place. They've done a superb job in regards to keeping it simple, and I think they've had 7 permits approved, and I think they've got about 16 more to approve. But anyway, just another layer of bureaucracy established by the state. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Miles.
But through the chair, if you don't mind, I can respond just really quickly to Supervisor
Sure.
Patty with regard to the status.
Okay.
And I apologize, Supervisor Patty. I thought I had shared with your office that we're working with a graphic designer through Shaw Yoder to redesign our certificate of recognition. I do expect that shortly. I'm not sure. I think last I heard she was going to reach out to the graphic designer to find out their availability. And then once I know what their availability is, we're going to send them what our current design looks like, some ideas that I have, and maybe if there's any input from board members on what their design is. As I shared, it was not my priority last year. We wanted to work on other items. This is definitely something that I've wanted to do for sure, but it just had to work on other items to get updated other than the look of the certificate. But I do want to also acknowledge County Administrator's Office for assisting in finding us an affordable graphic designer that can help us.
County Council?
The board will meet in closed session on the items listed on the agenda. There are no announcements expected coming out of closed session. We do have a 1:30 afternoon. There has been a request for a continuance on that, but we will have to return at 1:30 to consider the request for continuance.
Okay.
Chair, real quick, we can't do that now, or we have to wait since it's been agendized?
No, because it's been agendized for 1:30.
All right, so we'll go to closed session, then we'll return at 1:30 and then take action on that particular item. All right. Call the board meeting to order again. It's 1:32. Mr. Miles.
In the matter of Tracy Rural Fire Protection District versus County of San Joaquin, case number STKCVUWM 2020-0031, the board has authorized the county to file an appeal.
Okay, thank you. Now moving to the afternoon schedule. Public hearing regarding appeal of Yajo Incorporated. So, Ms. Jolly? I should say Director Jolly.
Good afternoon, everyone. We did receive a request for continuance. We received it Friday evening and saw it Monday morning. I've spoken to the applicant's attorney. He has indicated that all sides are in agreement to continue this at this point to see if they can work out some issues. So the request is to continue the item to September 27th. Board hearing.
Okay. Any comments from the board? Questions? Okay. Any comments from the public? All right, seeing none. Pleasure of the board. In regards to, is there a specific date?
They have agreed upon the date of September 27th.
Move to continue to September 27th.
Got it?
Second.
All right, please vote. That continues adopted 5-0. Thank you very much. Appreciate everybody coming. Any other comments? Miles?
I'd like to make a comment.
Sure.
I received some news last night, and it was confirmed this morning. Danielle Ramirez of my office, who is our senior deputy county counsel supervising for Child Protective Services, has been appointed to the bench.
Oh, congratulations to her.
Yes.
Here in San Joaquin County, I assume?
Here in San Joaquin County.
Very good.
We're very proud of her.
Great. All right, with that great news, we will adjourn until our next meeting, which is August 23rd, 9 a.m. Thank you.